live in Denmark. There's this hole in the law that they can live in any other EU country and work for only 3 or 4 weeks, and then they have the right to live in Denmark. And this is sort of the big issue right now, because of course the more less tourists, and also as in many other countries they keep building houses and more in the direction of luxury.
How is it with the rental market?
It's, you know, it's disappearing. Yeah. It used to be the most normal thing to rent an apartment.
Sweden like expanding like to Poland in a certain area. I mean totally like Finland and Norway being a part of Sweden at some point. But it's like now it's like Finland being very pro-EU, like the only nation in Scandinavia with the euro.
But this project like really ruined him, so in the end he killed himself. But and then that's when he went to Britain to study like a certain freeze technique to transport meat.
I think it was first of all a kind of projection, so no one was really totally clear what would happen and how we kind of fill this kind of Agulha Negra. It was like a symptom or a phantom also. And I think that was the beauty about it. So we all projected some kind of ideas and we all projected some kind of activities, or we all had kind of ideas that we wanted necessarily to share. But then it turned out to become totally different. So I mean, first I thought it was just more about sharing knowledge, but suddenly it became much more about sharing experiences together. What we could do here was really like trying to think about all the activities, the whole sum of what art actually means. It's much more than just producing an object or a result.
Well, I think it's important to meet people that you sort of would not meet in the context that you usually are in, especially like in the country in Sweden where I usually am and work, but also in the senses that you might not do the kind of work that would normally meet in exhibitions or in other places. Well, it's usually you are invited to things where you are expected to exhibit your work, and that is the main focus usually. But this is sort of another tryout of exchanges. If you can exchange information, experience, and it's not necessarily a result that it needs to be a product, which I find to be very interesting and somehow unusual. And it's also so many different ways of solving problems, personal problems, but that also is included somehow in your own profession, and that I found really inspiring in many ways, how people find resolutions to problems.
Interested in this post-colonial theories and interested in politics of migration, and here it was super obvious when we were starting reading post-colonial theory that people had so different perspectives. It was for me super interesting to have the conversations with Nadar and Karina, for example, because this was another perspective I got on things. The art system is a power system as well, so it is always, for me, it's important to deconstruct and to analyze how these power struggles and how these power hierarchies are actually functioning. For me, the main question is, like, as working on a curatorial side, like, how can these activities be transported back into the public spaces?
I think it's an interesting group. We're many different people, but some are similar and some are very, very different. But the more you discuss and talk, the more you understand that you have many things also in common, and that you can actually learn from each other. But you can also tell that it takes a long time usually to get to know another person and to know that person's practice and how you can share experiences.
One day, I understand what happened to me. I believed that I suffered for not being loved. Therefore, for believing that I was loved, that I suffered.
Like realizing later I was suffering for the contrary.
For believing that
because I believed I was loved.
That I was loved. I lived in the complication of believing at the same time that I was loved and abandoned. Anyone who would have heard my intimate language could only exclaim, as we do to a difficult child, "But then, what does he really want?"
When you realized that you thought you were being loved and you were not. That's sort
I
of
think
the
that
worst.
when you realized that you were suffering, not because you thought that you were loving, but
that you love.
that you were loved, but you thought
But
that you were loved.
I was proposing a collective video archive. So my idea was that we would bring all different kind of videos together, and that we then select together what we want to watch, and that we then maybe in Sao Paulo show a selection of these videos that we would again discuss with the audience. And from my personal interest, I was choosing videos or documentaries that are interested in self-organization and marginalized groups or initiatives, like groups that really try to get, that are in between empowerment and resistance against, like, let's say, a globalized and neo-colonialized world. So for me it's always interesting to hear what the marginalized or what the ones have to say from their perspective in their minority sense. Yeah.
So the evaluation is just that for me it's been interesting to see and very important to see how you can actually solve some problems that might be on a personal level but can also be included in the professional.